So, what are you, crazy? That ain't gonna fit in there. It's wider than the truck bed. It's longer than the truck bed. That's just crazy. It'd be pretty handy though. Hey guys, how you doing? It's General Dreams. Welcome back to the channel. So, I just thought this would be kind of a fun little shot here. The front end of this machine is about 2.5 inches wider than my tailgate. So that means it's probably like 6 inches wider than this spot here. So there's no way possible that that machine would go into that bed. Now some side-by-side small ones you can put in a truck bed, but you can't do this. So not only is it too wide, but it's too long. You got an 8-foot bed, you got tailgate down, you got about 9.5 feet, and you got a machine that's 12.5 foot long. So that definitely would not work. So anyways, I just thought that'd be a little fun to throw that on there and mess with some people, get some attention. And look, I got a new Blackstone. We'll have to get that thing out and test it. Anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm starting to build a rack to go on the truck, and I'll show you some of the process getting started here in this video. Just kind of keep you up to date of what's going on, and then in the next video, hopefully I'll have a rack in the back of that truck with that General right there sitting on top of it. So the spooky thing here is that that's a lifted truck and that's a tall machine, but my calculations say I'll still be road legal. So we'll go ahead and insert some of the videos here, and I may wind up saying some stuff that I already said just now, but just as I've been going through this process, I've done some clips here and there, and I'll throw some in there in this part 1, and I'll just walk around here one more time, and there we go. All right, so enjoy the rest of the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And you see part 1 of what I got going here and how I'm building it. And then we'll see you on the next one to see the finished product. All right, enjoy. All right. So here's the beginning of building the rack. Pardon the noise. I'm cutting some pieces. Building the rack to haul the General on the top of the truck. Here's a pile of my frames. I got 1x2 frames for the runners. I got 1x1 frames. It's going to be around the perimeter. It's going to be set up high. I'll put some little pieces in between. So what you'll see is 2x and then 1x, and then there'll be some frames in between. And I don't know, I may possibly do some of these. I don't know, haven't decided yet, but this is the beginning of it. I got a jig set up. I got these angles all welded down to the table. They're all plumb. This bottom one is already tacked together. Cut all the others to match it. Some of them are run a little bit long. And on this top one here, that one's run quite a bit long because I'm considering you have your top frame like that, and I was considering, I mean that's the bottom frame, then you have the top frame, which is the 1x up like that, thinking that the tire would sit in like that. I'm not 100% that I'm going to do it that way, but I got them long so that I can. And then this piece here, this is a spread to go from driver to passenger side. Right now it's 7 foot long out to out. I'd kind of like to keep it narrow, but you do need a little bit of room to walk on it and maneuver. So I can always cut these down, but I figured I'd start right there. So then I got to do some math and figure out the width of my runners for the tires. Because if it's if it's 7 foot wide, that's the outside, so it'd be 6'10" inside. And with the paddles on, I have to have at least 75 inches. So the inside I gotta have 45. So you gotta keep in mind that if I run one way or another on the ramp, that I'm still going to be on the inboard side. Like if I have the dirt tires on, you know, and say I hug one side a little too much, I don't want to come off and land inside the truck. Better than landing off the truck, but so I'll have to do some math and come up with how wide I want to make those. 16 inches wide was the first thing in my mind, but I haven't done the math on it yet. So all right, so there's the beginning of this. Cut in pieces. Get a big old pile here and then start tacking stuff together. Well, there's my jig that I used. I set that on the truck to figure all these angles out. And we'll show you more as we go along. All right, so here is a look at roughly what it's going to look like. So these are the supports here. These will have a framework that goes down into the bed down there under these. So I'll have this one slid back as far as I can and still be resting in the bed. This one here will be as close to that joint, kind of like it's sitting, as I can. And then of course the toolbox has to come out. There'll be another frame like that that goes right down in here. You can kind of see there's a void down in there. So that'll set down in there and go all the way up, and that's what'll support that. You can see right now that there's a little bit of a gap up there at the top. And up on top of the bed or cab, there's 2x4s to keep my spacing right, so that it follows the lines of the truck. And I can get back and show you what it looks like. If I get back here, you can kind of see the lines of the truck, how it's following it. And this will hang out. These are a hair longer than I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna cut 4 inches off of those, so it won't stick out quite as far. But then on the back of this, there'll be a frame that goes across side to side. So this is one of the rails. There'll be one here running up 20 inches over, one running up, same thing over here on the end, 20 inches in. And then it'll be diagonal braced, the frame on the bed. You can slide it in and slide it out. Distribute the load all over the bed with some turnbuckles. So I've got those all cut. Alright guys, so I'm going to show you where I'm at so far. I've got a bunch of frame pieces. There's one up here on the table in the jig still. So you got that jigged out, throw some weld on there, and then when I flip them over, I've got these spacers so that it can hold it up so you're not sitting on the weld, because that'll wind up throwing it off when you're laying it back down. And then when you're done, I can set it back on the table and make sure that the heat from the welds hasn't curled one of the sides up or anything, which on this one it did. So even though it was all clamped down, I have clamps clamping it to the table in various spots, and I had clamps clamping it to the jig. And the hope was that it wasn't going to move. This one moved a fair amount. I had to trim it. Just run the cutoff wheel back through the weld there and re-weld it. And you can see down here on this one that the way that one over there, that far one is sitting up on that cord, but that one just this side of it, the way it's off the ground a little more than these others. So I'll get down here so you can see maybe. So you can see how this one is much higher off the ground than this one. This one is straight. It didn't warp. That one pulled up quite a bit. And this one here's up some. So I'll just have to take them and I'll just have to cut the weld on the other side, re-weld it, it'll pull it down. And then I was having trouble with my welder. I got some welds that are running fine, and some other welds weren't. And they wind up piling up, having troubles. So where'd I put it? There it is, my little welder that's over here. It's an old Clark 130. It's a 110 unit. I've done a lot of stuff with it. I built my trailer that I haul the General around on with that. But the US version of Clark, or version or company anyway, went bankrupt. So there's no parts available for it anymore. And what I had found is the part inside where the spool rolls is worn out. Right in here. So when you have the 11-pound one on there, is rolling around, and instead of rolling smoothly, it'd kind of go so it was making the wire kind of jump and go back and forth. And then I'd get it all dialed in, adjust this, it's all dialing in, it's working good. You make a couple of test welds, okay, we got it. Go back to the part that you want. You get one, maybe two, then it starts doing it again. You look in here, yeah, it's jamming. The nut gets cocked in there. So I borrowed a welder from a friend's. I got to do a couple test welds on that. Hopefully I don't have that problem with the rest. These ones aren't the end of the world. If you have one of those welds that doesn't flow out the way you want, like this one, I don't like that. And you know, I got plenty of penetration. There's no problem there. It's going to hold together. They're just ugly. But those are easy. You can hit them with a sander, sand them off. You could grind a little groove in there if you wanted to, and run a new pass around it to make it look nice if you want the weld to show. Or you could sand the weld off. I mean, I know for a fact I got penetration. I'm not worried about there being enough material there. I just don't like the look. But when you get into doing these rungs, you're going to have all these angles on there. If your welder messes up on you when you're doing that, those are kind of a bear to get into every one of these and try to fix them. So I want to make sure I got the welder dialed in, and one I can trust by the time I get to those. So anyway, there's all these pieces here kind of mocked up. I need to finish welding them in, and welding them out. I got part of the cage built over here for the bottom area. This is the part that slides in the bed. I don't know why I called it a cage. This is the part up by the cab. And this here is down by the tailgate. And they'll get the bar laying on top of it. That'll extend out. And then those pieces will go on top so I get my full width, so that the General can fit on there even if it has the paddles. And I made this just a hair short so that I don't have to take my headache rack off to put this in. If my headache rack is off, I'll be able to push this forward like another inch. So I figured it's nice to be able to just leave the rack on. I might, down here, I might weld some kind of a stop. I'm not sure, or do a bolt on so I can adjust it. So you can push it in and, you know, have a piece of rubber on there, push it right up to the front of the bed and just go thunk, and it's in its spot. And then I have a little bit of a gap for the headache rack. And if I wind up taking the headache rack off, you know, I could shorten up the rubber piece that I put down there so it goes up farther. We'll see. That was a thought. Anyway, just thought I'd show you where I am at so far. I had to pick up 2 more pieces. I have to trim those. And all right, I'm gonna cut some little pieces and do some testing with this welder and get back to work. All right, we'll show you more on the subject later. Okay, so I'm getting a little farther along. You can see the basic shape of everything now. I just put those in there, and then I think I'm gonna tie these across and then do a diagonal brace, and that'll be a good base. That's where the majority of the weight will be, right over the engine right here. So I want that to be good and solid so that I don't have to worry about that wiggling. And then, you know, of course, these will get all these rungs put in here like this. This is all just sitting on here right now. And that's how far it's going to hang over the cab right there. So I've got these bars over here ready. I went over and checked everything. Put a little paint on my table so that I can mark it. One of these I have laid out already. See if you can see that. Yeah, I got some marks on that. So I'll take that one, lay it back in the jig, transfer it onto this area that I painted. I just painted it so it'll show up better because my fab table is pretty rusty. Put all those marks on there, and then that way I could transfer those to every one of these. So I'll have it all laid out, ready to go. And then I'm going to try to utilize the jig that I got built over here. And I'll take one of those top pieces and one of those side rails and set them in here with these little pieces in between it. And then I can clamp it, hold it all together, hold the shape, tack weld all that stuff, get it all together, and then stick it back on here and then tack weld it on here. And then across the front here, I'll be mitering these, I believe. Yeah, that's what I had planned. I'm gonna miter this. I'll have a piece running across so it ties all these in. It'll have a top piece on it also, so I'll have a curve all the way around. And then there's some of these areas. It's a problem with building something for yourself. As you're building it, you think of different ways that you could have done it. You wish you did this, you wish you did that. If it's something for someone else, you make a plan, you go for it, you build it, you're done. It's a lot simpler. I overthink it when it's for myself. What if I did this? But what if I did this? Just build it. You can always make another one later when you come up with a better idea. You'd be faster. Anyway, you see down here that there's holes, open tube. Well, I was thinking that I was going to put a gusset plate down here. So that would be my cap for that tube instead of mitering that. So that's why I did that there. Well, anyway, there we go. That's where I'm at now. I'm going to start, I'm going to take these things off. They're just all sitting on here for mock-up. Go ahead and make my pieces for that and get that thing stiffened up really strong. Start working on these today. All right, here we go.